What's up, y'all? Today I want to share with you guys one of the most powerful books I've ever read, and it's called Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland, steps 1 through 5. Now, Vadim Zeland is a Russian quantum physicist. He wrote this originally in Russian and translated into English, and that's why you won't typically find it in your local Barnes and Nobles or local bookstores. Now, how did I find this crazy Russian book? And I was following this 22-year-old entrepreneur millionaire named Iman Gaji, and he actually read a book every single week from the age of 14 to 17. And out of all these hundreds of books that he read, this was in his top 3. And I can understand why. And that's because reality transurfing lets you have the framework and technology to manage your reality. And who doesn't want to have control over the reality? Now, it's nothing like Neo where you'll be able to see into the matrix and just do whatever the hell you want, but it'll give you techniques of things to avoid and also techniques and strategies on things that you should focus in on. And I think that's the biggest benefit, because there's going to be a lot of things out there like The Secret or maybe Dr. Joe Dispenza's Quantum, but both have their place out there, but this will kind of give you the step-by-step and the ideologies and framework to kind of piece it all together. So let's start from the highest level. What is reality transurfing and what's the goal of it? It's pretty much how do we go and achieve our highest lifelines, because Vadim Zeland mentions that in our lifetime, in our life right now, there are different alternatives, lifelines in front of us. In this alternative space, there's different lifelines in front of us. There are millions and millions potential of what we can potentially be and have in our lifetimes. But amongst all of this, there are activities that's going to put us on a lower lifeline. There are things that are going to put us on a higher lifeline. So I drew a little picture for you guys to help illustrate this. This is us. This is the millions of lifelines that we can possibly have, and I've reduced it just to 10 with just to simplify things. 1 being our worst lifeline and 10 being our best lifeline. So for example, if we decided to join a gang, right, and we start to kill people, do a lot of bad stuff, we will obviously be choosing a negative lifeline. That's not ideal for us, but there is that alternate space and reality out there for us if we choose to do that. Now, obviously, we're not going to do that, but maybe we're going to choose to work at a job that we kind of like, be with a person we kind of like as well. Not the best, but we're going to just continue to live a mediocre life. And that's maybe a 2 out of 3, 2 out of 10 lifeline that you could potentially have. So it's not the best, but it's not the worst as well. But a lot of times people will feel, I feel stuck in this life. How the hell do I get to this level 10? And I've thought about it. I'm sure a lot of people out there have thought about it as well. And that's because of the concept of the pendulum that keeps us stuck in the loop, that we are stuck in the rules that we must stay in this specific lifeline. And that's the most destructive thing about what I'm about to explain about what pendulums are in a second, but it keeps us on this lower lifeline thinking that we're stuck here, when actually we have the freedom to actually reality transurf and surf our way up to this higher lifeline of level, maybe not level 10 right away, maybe it'll get from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, maybe back down, but all the time always finding a way on how do we get to our highest lifeline. So I want to explain to you guys the concept of pendulum. That's why I wanted to share this video today, is because it's one of the most craziest concepts that I've ever learned, that everything in our society, in our lives, everything is a pendulum. And a pendulum is an energy information structure created by people's thought energy, right? Our thoughts emit a certain type of energy. And when our energy is thinking in one way, sometimes at times other people are also thinking the same way, and that creates a certain movement, it creates a certain system, a certain ideology, right? So just think about in the context of religion, a lot of people are thinking about Christianity, or let's just say people in the world are Muslim. Everyone thinks that, okay, we have to pray 5 times a day. Everyone's thinking in the same direction, right? So pendulums are thought energies. A group of people all thinking the same way can happen on a global level, it can happen on a national level, it can happen at a state level, local level, all the way down to the individual level. We ourselves are pendulums ourselves, but the most destructive ones are the ones when it's on grander scale of a lot of people thinking one direction, and it subdues us into thinking one style of way. Now, other than from the global to the personal level, it also affects the pendulums. It also includes activities that are going on in our lives, whether that's our work, our careers, our relationships, our hobbies, events that happens to our lives. These are things that are also creating a form of energy going back and forth. Now, sometimes if you think about the concept of a pendulum, I instantly think about my time back in high school in my science classes, where I think of a washer and on a string, and it's going back and forth. So I got a necklace here as an example. There's a weight on the bottom, and there's a string. And as you let it go, it moves back and forth because of the energy there. And if I put more energy into it, it sways bigger and faster, right? And if I choose to stop it, it no longer moves because we stop feeding energy into it. And that's the whole concept of pendulums, that it only moves when people feed their thought energy into it. Think about it in the sense of, let's say, a corporation, right? A startup. A startup only starts out with one person, finds a co-founder, 2 people thinking in the same direction, builds out a team, right? Into a group of maybe 10 of the core founding team members of the startup team, that ends up getting their Series A and ends up getting funding and ends up growing into a larger group of people, and it slowly evolves into a bigger company until one day it goes public and it's this massive corporation. So it all started out with one person thinking about going in one direction. And that's the whole thing. It takes people to feed energy and thoughts into it, and it will slowly move back and forth until it becomes bigger and bigger. So I want everyone to think about, though, let's go back to the concept of destructive pendulums. Pendulums are destructive because it makes us feel like we are stuck on a lower lifeline when we can actually achieve a higher lifeline. So some examples of this in the most extreme by the book is wars. Wars such as, let's just say, Ukraine versus Russia, or let's just say the Nazis versus Jewish in the past, right? A lot of people fell under Hitler's pendulum of going back and forth, like, hey, follow me, we need to be the supreme ruler, we need to kill Jewish people, we need to create concentration camps. And a lot of Germans fell into his pendulum and ended up, those Germans who became Nazi soldiers, lived a lower lifeline than they could have potentially have. So that's on the worst case scenario. But it can also happen on a personal level, where maybe you just join a fraternity. That's what I did, and it's not necessarily bad or good, but there's a lot of partying, there's a lot of skipping classes, and that might mean that you are not living your best life. So going back to this, right, by me partying and skipping classes, I was living a lower lifeline of that I'm not living my best life. And I had to really understand, like, now looking in hindsight, that was a destructive pendulum that I probably needed to stop, right? And it stopped once obviously you're done with college, and you can slowly build up to how can I feed into constructive pendulums, and which kind of leads me into what are constructive pendulums. Constructive pendulums could be, on the greater grand scheme of things, it could be political, forward-thinking political systems, right? Maybe like democracy, thinking what everybody wants. It could also be movements like the civil rights movement, because the civil rights movement happened, a lot of people's lives were changed and everybody has more equal rights. And that has elevated a lot of African Americans' lives. And that's a great step forward. And other things than that, maybe even just a gym, right? Everybody is going to a gym and thinking about, hey, let's get after it. You know, at home, you're not actually thinking about, hey, how can I live? Like, shoot, there's no energy. It's like, do I really want to work out? Do I not? But once you're actually in the gym, everyone goes there with the intention, with the energy, thought energy. I want to improve my life. So when you're in there, you actually feel like, oh, I actually want to get better. Then that's beyond a gym. Maybe it gets at a yoga class. Maybe it's at a Pilates class. It's a lot of things, but you can definitely feel the energy of a place. So, you know, I want to bring up the story of one of my friends from college, and he actually felt trapped in a lifeline. He felt that he was not living his best life, that he was in corporate America, and that why was he just working all the time at home just to pay the bills? He was not living his best life. He was not dating anyone, and he just felt like, is this all that there is life? And he actually said, hey, there's something out there better for me. He thought of the idea of maybe I can become a digital nomad. So he went to Vegas, went to a digital nomad summit, learned that there are ways to make money online, found a group of guys, banded together and said, hey, we're going to make this work. So he found a new job of learning how to build business online, learned the necessary skills for a certain period of time, realized that he could do it on his own. So once he learned the skills, he moved to a lower cost of living country and he built up the skills. And, you know, obviously there was a lot of hardship that came along the way, but now he's happily traveling and living in South America and living what he deems to be a higher lifeline for him. So by him constantly choosing, hey, I have the opportunity to say no to the American pendulum of that I have to just work a 9 to 5, I have to get married very young, and I just have to have kids right away. He says, no, screw that. I'm going to choose my own path. And he chose to live in a higher lifeline for him specifically. Because digital nomadism is not for everyone, and that's not the path for everyone. And sometimes, you know, going through corporate America, 9 to 5, getting married right away in your 20s, that's the move, and that's great, right? But the whole thing about why I'm sharing this at all is that we sometimes feel like we're stuck in a certain lifeline, but we're not. We actually have options, and that we need to be aware that there are these rules that I feel like imposed on us, but we actually have the freedom to choose, and that we do not have to follow the rules. That's what Vadim Zeland's message is to us, to be aware and know that there are higher lifelines for us. So, you know, I challenge everyone to really think about their life, whether that's your career / work, whether that's your relationships with your friends or your partner, maybe that's your hobbies, activities that you do on a day-to-day basis, maybe life events that happen to your life. Identify, because these are all pendulums at the end of the day. Are they constructive? Are they energizing you? Or are they destructive and they are draining your energy? Because if it's constructive, like let's just say it's a good group of friend groups, it's the activities that you love, learn to nurture and feed those. And if it's destructive, just be aware of them. You don't need to eliminate them right away, but just be aware. Know that you have choices. Try to minimize them if you can. But know that you are always in control and you can live a higher life track if possible. I've done my own reflection of thinking like, hey, you know, I don't need to be working at my company forever. Like, I'll always have a choice, but I consciously choose I want to work here right now because I'm learning great skills, surrounded by great teammates, and I want to feed energy into this at this moment of my lifetime right now because I feel like it's mutually beneficial. And even me living in California right now, this is not where I have to live forever. I'm not stuck here, right? I have the opportunity to move around if I want to. Maybe I can leave my job. Maybe I can just work remotely at a different place. I'm flexible. So just wanted to say that, you know, we always have choices. Our main goal, going back to this, is that, hey, we will always, in this alternative space, we have a lot of different lifelines. let's all find a way that we can get out of whatever pendulums there are. Destructive, let's minimize them. Constructive, let's feed into them so that we can all slowly work our way up to our level 10 best lives. So I really appreciate everyone listening out there today. But until next time, peace.